Good afternoon. Let us present the results of our research on the topic, the usage of GIS in the retrospective analysis of the territorial organization of Kryvyi settlement. The study of landscape dynamics is crucial for determining the anthropogenic impact on the transformation of technologically disturbed geosystems. Kryvyi, with over 130 years of excessive mining and mineral processing, is a prime example. The purpose of the publication is to reconstruct the anthropogenic effect on the transformation of natural landscapes by means of retrospective analysis of the process of territorial organization of Kryvyi settlement. The primary purpose comprises three research tasks, which you can see at the screen. The retrospective research admittedly uses two main sources of information which reflect the state of the territory in a certain period of time, various historical texts and cartographic materials of different times. This publication uses a number of historical text materials that reflect the development of Kryvyi area. However, we know that these sources provide unsystematic and episodical accounts of the settlement of this territory of the studied region, and mostly without spatial visualization. The analyzed material sometimes manifests significant content contradictions, which require further determination of the validity of the presented spatio-temporal data. Cartographic materials of the studied territory are represented by a number of historical maps created over 3 centuries of topographic research. The main ones are map of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, special map of the western part of the Russian Empire by Schubert, 3-mile military topographic map of the Russian Empire, the maps of the Office of Military Topographers of the Red Army, the maps of the German Army, topo maps of the US Army, and maps of the General Staff of the USSR Armed Forces. These map the environmental changes and were key tools in our analysis. To establish the settlement timeline and demographics, we analyzed cartographic works across periods, comparing depicted settlements, locations, and symbols to determine their spatio-temporal characteristics through cross-analysis of multiple historical sources. For example, Kryvyi had 460 yards plotted on Schubert's 1849 map, but 770 yards on the 1888 Russian military map. So we can conclude that the data visualized on the Schubert map correspond to 1810 and on the 3-mile map to 1882. We make similar diagrams for other cross-cutting settlements, which help determine the temporal intervals of the correspondence of the data plotted on these maps. Analogically, the population of Kryvyi city on the map of the General Staff of the USSR Armed Forces, created in 1990, corresponds to the time range of 1985-1987. To fill the data gaps, we analyzed historical documents in order to establish the correlation between the number of yards and their population on the territory of residence, excluding large settlements with detailed records, since the historical and statistical information about them is quite detailed. The diagram shows the close correlation between the number of yards and their population on the territory of residence, crossing the pairwise correlation coefficient is plus 0.89. So the number of yards in Kryvyi area allows to calculate with a high degree of reliability spatio-temporal indicators of the population for all analyzed time segments. The resettlement of Kryvyi area began in the middle of the 16th century, when it became part of the Zaporizhia Nizovy Host until 1775, the end of the Zaporizhia army existence. Analysis of the map using the heat map method demonstrates that settlements initially had a linear distribution along rivers, as proximity to the river network was the key natural factor shaping the early structure. At the beginning of the 19th century, the number of settlements in Kryvyi area tripled due to the resettlement of a significant number of serfs from different parts of Russian Empire and on the emergence of Jewish settlements. The settlement structure of the region at that time almost didn't change. At the end of the 19th century, the number of settlements in Kryvyi area doubled due to their location on vacant land between previously built settlements. It resulted in a transition form of linear structure of settlement of the region to a linear planar one. From the middle of the 19th century, Kryvyi turned into a significant agricultural and trade center of southern Ukraine. Since then, the development of Kryvyi Rih was affected by its growing economic role. The transformation of Kryvyi Rih into a big economic center affected the location and functioning of virtually all settlements of Kryvyi Rih area. The territorial organization of the population changed. A set of processes or actions that regulate the interrelation between the popular location and production, interconnection, and subordination. The rural settlement networks significantly changed its role in the general system of settlement of the region, since at that time it acquired a secondary role in the economic development of Kryvyi Rih area. Virtually, a gradual transition from natural to economic factors of settlements structure formation took place at that time. The active process of resettlement of peasants during the period of the Stolypin reform and mostly the abolition of landlord land ownership by the decree on land, which the subsequent distribution of allotments among peasants contributed to the active development of almost the entire territory of the region. According to the 1982-86 Soviet military map, while the overall settlement count was similar to 1930, historical sources indicate an initial increase until the mid-20th century, followed by a decrease aided by the region's fertile soils, geography, and irrigation supporting rural network growth. The identified trend of changes in the nature of settlement of the region is manifested in changes in the average distances between settlements of Kryvyi Rih, their number and the density of their location during the settlement of the territory. The identified trend of changes in the nature of settlement of the region is manifested in changes in the average distances between settlement of Kryvyi Rih, number of settlements in Kryvyi Rih, and the density of their location in different periods of settlement. Analyzing the spatio-temporal differentiation of the region's population density indicator, the following can be noted. At the end of the 18th century, two centers of development were noted, Kryvyi Rih in the center of the region and Lozovatka in the north. Population placement at that time was uniform. The end of the 19th century, the third population center in the south of the region, the colony of Inglets and the village of Shiroke, came into being, making the main changes in the spatial structure of quantitative indicators of population displacement. Since the middle of the 20th century, a linear zone of population density has been clearly distinguished, which marks the territory of the city of Kryvyi Rih as the territory of maximum density among the low indicators of the rural settlement network. After the analysis of changes in the population of the cross-cutting settlements of the region, we divide them into three groups according to the dynamics of changes. The first group is characterized by a sharp increase in the number of the population in the second half of the 20th century. The city of Kryvyi Rih and settlement, as well as settlements located near it, which are under its high economic influence. The second one illustrates the regular statistical distribution of the population indicator. These settlements with regressive population trends often former Jewish agricultural colonies. And the third group comprises settlements with a stable dynamic development of demographic indicators. This includes the villages which are distant from Kryvyi Rih, so the city economic influence is insignificant. Thank you for your attention.